They said humanity is at a time of reckoning, and a reckoning is a facing of oneself and all of one's creations, and that everything that's been created in fear is going to need to be re-seen or re-known in a higher way. And you can't continue to patch the roof on the house when the foundation of the house is faulty. You can patch all you want to, but there's a time when the house needs to be rebuilt in a higher or other way.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you feel the world is in a great shift, chaos and awakening all at once, then do we have the Divine Union Show for you. I'm thrilled to welcome back one of my all-time favorite guests and absolute favorite spiritual teacher, the renowned channel and author, Paul Selig. We're diving into his powerful new work, Divine Union, and what the guides say about navigating these uncharted times. So welcome back to the show, Paul. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much for being here and a mighty woohoo.
And
all right. I love it. Before we dive right into things, forgive me, Paul. I've asked this before and need to ask this again. Do the guides say we'll all make it through?
Yeah, I mean, they have said all. I don't know what all means. The species, they say, makes it through. Humanity, they say, has chosen to begin to operate in a higher way and an other way beyond what we've chosen prior, and that's an enormous shift. So do I think that's a free pass, that we don't get to have this other experience without changing? No, I don't think that that's the case at all. I think we're being called to great change.
It's interesting that you say that. I'm sure you have had an interesting summer. We have been swapping story about my interesting summer. It seems like none of us are getting that hall pass right now. What do you think's going on?
What do I think's going on? I mean, the guide said this 15 years ago in the very first book. They said humanity is at a time of reckoning, and a reckoning is a facing of oneself and all of one's creations, and that everything that's been created in fear is going to need to be re-seen or re-known in a higher way. And I don't think we get to do that without looking at our stuff. And I think what we're having to do right now is look at our stuff. Now there's the personal stuff, and then there's the collective stuff. So my guides tend to talk about collective agreements and collective structures, and that reality as we know it is a collective agreement to form. And what we see around us is what we're in co-resonance with. So they don't teach manifestation as getting a bigger car or a better house. They talk about manifestation as everything that we're encountering, which we're in alignment to. So the level of alignment that we're at currently is being shifted. That's what I understand. And in order for us to do that, we have to look at our own stuff, collective stuff, our structures. And they began saying this, God, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And they've been quite accurate, I have to say, in their, I'm not going to call them predictions, but in their assessments of where humanity is at. They started saying, I think in 220, before COVID, the magnitude of change that was about to come. And then after that, they began to talk about a disassembling of structures that we've been reliant upon. And they said things like financial, education, medical. I'm thinking, what the hell is this stuff? And it seems to be kind of what we're attending to now. But, I understand at a certain level that, certain things, as they say, you can't continue to patch the roof on the house when the foundation of the house is faulty. You can patch all you want to, but there's a time when the house needs to be rebuilt in a higher or other way. And they speak about other a lot lately. They just channeled their 14th book, I think. They finished about 2 weeks ago. It was 30 days, 20 days of channeling sessions, over 300 pages. It's like my brain is swimming from it. But, they really do talk in this about how, I don't remember what I was saying, how what we have chosen needs to be rechosen in a higher way. And the chaos that we're in right now is actually the product of this change. They said in a channeling yesterday, because I do a lot of online stuff, they talked about, being in a field which was full of smoke. Things were seemingly on fire, and we're trying to battle the smoke at the level of the smoke. And they say what you do is you rise above it in order to see the cause. And it's very much a teaching of rising above. And rising above, I don't think means bypassing and pretending things are pretty or spraying some perfume over what stinks. I don't think it's that. I do think, as they've said recently many, many times, that you don't tear the wall down by attacking the wall. You lift above the wall, or the need for separation or the belief in separation, to the level where the wall itself does not exist because it can't exist, which is another level of consciousness. So they're speaking a lot about other, which means other than we've thought, other than we've known, other than how we've chosen. They say that humanity has been choosing from an old menu for a long time, and there's a new menu that's coming into being.
I can ask more questions out of what you just said than, I don't know, maybe 5 interviews, Paul. Let's go to the first piece. People are going to say, I did not agree upon this. Or when we have a future child come through, did that future child agree to a land that used to be in slavery, or where all people are maybe not? And this isn't a political thing. Did we agree to all of these structures and ways of being?
Agreement doesn't mean approval. You're misconstruing the teaching. An agreement's not approval. Agreement is, I see a pile of garbage out my window. Now, because I see the pile of garbage, I'm in accord, vibrational accord with the pile of garbage. Call it whatever you wish to call it. And the vibrational accord simply means that I hold a level of alignment to that thing. You know, New Agers can be a little bit funny with stuff, which was, I didn't create this, I didn't make it happen. In an early book, the guides talked about this. And I remember saying, it's like, I didn't create the war in the Middle East, so don't throw that my way. And the explanation was, when I said, well, does this mean if there's a book on a table in Paris, that I'm in accord with a book on the table in Paris? I said, the moment you know about the book on the table in Paris, yes, because your consciousness is informing it. And this is how we create. So it's actually shifting, I think, at a level of collective accord. So the personal self is responsible for certain things, but we can all agree, and agree again is vibrational accord, that I could say, well, we all agree where I live that there's an ocean and a sky, and we all have our understandings of ocean and sky, which is, again, collective agreement to a version of reality. Does that make some sense?
It does, and I agree with you. I want to play with this for a minute. If we do not follow the news, what I call the negative worthless stimulation, and the we are doomed, the climate is doomed, the blah, 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 doomed, forgive me. If we instead hold a higher vibration or accord, can we create the higher and no longer agree to the lower? But I got to be careful. I got to put that in quotes because I cannot judge.
Mm-hmm. There's different ways to talk about this, and I don't have all the answers, and my guides are the ones that teach this stuff. I do my best to interpret when I can, but now I'm channeling directly without the whisper and repeat, which means I'm retaining next to nothing of what is said, and I don't actually read the books they write until I have to sit down in the studio and do the audio book.
What do you mean you don't do the whisper and repeat anymore? What does that look
How
like?
I've been channeling has shifted since April, and so everything is coming out direct now. I may whisper and repeat for a moment, but then it's boom, and then my brain turns kind of into mush for some time after. It's really been a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting it to happen, but it did, and so my process has changed. But I'd like to go back to your question, but I can't remember it.
So we're talking about the news, collective agreement, higher level accord.
You know, I'm of mixed mind about this. A teacher that I had 100 years ago, Ethel Lombardi, she was very good. And she said, when somebody said, should we not watch the news? Won't that lower the vibration? She said, well, you need to know where to send the light to. Real simple. And I don't see this as pretending that things are okay. It becomes enormously selfish.
Spiritual bypass.
Well, yeah, but also a kind of entitlement. So, well, my neighbors down the road are starving, but they created their reality. So what? If you have the food, bring them the food. It's really very simple stuff that we kind of don't want to have to look at if it's not convenient to us. So I have some stuff around this. Now, I do understand, and I'll give you this as an example because I do think it's about rising to a level of consciousness where certain things are not present. And that's very much the guide's teaching. They've said many times that we have lived on a planet for so long where we accept war. They say we've actually been at war, and they call it the same war since somebody picked up the first rock and threw it at their neighbor, you know? But, you know, as because we have always lived with war, it becomes part of the common field and what we expect. And our belief in peace is a cessation of war because we really can't imagine a world beyond war. Now, war is a fear-based structure. Greed is a fear-based structure. All of the things that are causing pain, the guides have said is what they call the denial of the divine, the denial of the presence of the divine, and putting something other in its place. In their teachings, they talk about the upper room, which is a level of consciousness or vibration. They say it's an octave of vibration that exists above the common field. My guides don't talk about dimensions. I've heard them say that word twice. They talk in musical form. So when you go to the upper room, they say what you don't bring there is your fear, because the vibration of fear does not lift to that level. Fear itself is static. They say it can spread, but it spreads as a cancer does. It does not lift itself. So when you go to the level of the upper room, you're no longer choosing in fear. You're no longer creating from that. And they say, you know, humanity needs to come to a level of accord where the idea of war isn't present. Even the idea of war is lost. And I go, well, does that ever happen? And they say, well, many things have been lost that you don't even think of. I grew up with a rotary telephone. Nobody thinks about those things anymore. Some things can be lost. So I have hope for this based on what they say. You know, I'm an old curmudgeon in some ways. I really am. I'm an old New Yorker, you know, and I don't like to paint things rosy when they're not. But I do hear from the guides that, you know, we're accountable to all of our creations, and our creations are beyond our individual lives. They say we are our brother's keeper. And so we live in a world where there's been tremendous inequity, and these are things that are to be attended to, but from a higher state of consciousness. And that's all because of a great belief in lack. And the belief in lack is, again, they say the denial of the divine or the denial of source. So it's a larger thing. I don't think that this is necessarily putting a happy face posted on the fridge and saying the world is great. I think I have an experience here on Maui, perhaps, where I am not facing some of what I lived with all the time when I lived in Manhattan, you know, which was, you know, challenging at times and wonderful at times. And it was just another way of being in the world. But I don't know that it comes from pretending that other things are not happening. You know, I mean, here's an example that they've used once. So the idea that we can live in a world where a company can poison the wells in a community and the children get sick doesn't mean that the children created their illness because they're not dealing with their issues or whatever. It means that we are in vibrational accord to a world where such things happen. And until we shift that, we can't necessarily shift the outcome.
Thank you. So let's go to that. I want to ask if there's a collective agreement to the crumbling of the old, or how is this? You mentioned in the first sentence, you said, the species has chosen to make it through in another way. What does that mean?
It means that we can't, well, what it really means, I understand, is that we've created the means to destroy ourselves and everything. And that we realize that at a certain level, and we're saying no to that because the species intends to survive. So the guides have said you want to learn the lessons of war by annihilating everything. You can choose to do that, but we don't see that happening. So the idea of a higher choice or another choice is a radical shift in consciousness. And you can call this awakening to one thing or another. I don't think it's just necessarily taking out the toolkit and trying to fix the old at the level of understanding that we've had. I think it comes from a different level of awareness and understanding, regardless of what I say or anybody says.
Thank you. Does that level of awareness, and I might come back to war in a minute, I'm going to bookmark that. Does that level of understanding or awareness come from playing vibrationally in this upper room? And we get to ask what that means, or staying at this higher frequency?
Both are true. I think both are true. I mean, it's you see, we're talking right now, I think, about symptoms of problems and looking at the problems, and I understand that. And the teachings of the guides are somewhat different. They're not pretending we don't have problems in any way, shape, or form. They're actually supporting us with the tools that we can recreate the manifest plane. And that's very much their teaching. So when they speak to this, they speak about the aspect of self. They call it the divine self, sometimes the monad, sometimes the indwelling Christ, lots of names. Doesn't really matter, they say, what you call it. It's the God within. The God within anyone, everyone, expresses at a level of tone, and they call that level of tone the upper room. It's in the octave above. The God within is always at that level of vibration. And their teaching has been, from the really beginning, to shift the subtle bodies, the physical body, to a level of vibration where they can attune or align more fully to the upper room. And that's another level of vibration. And they say at that level, and they do this through their attunements, and there's a lot of them, and it would take a while to unpack. But at that level of vibration of accord, you're actually reclaiming manifestation in vibrational alignment to what you've come to. In other words, God sees God in all of its creations. You don't, when you are the light, you don't necessarily decide where the light should shine. The light shines equally on all things. It's not about fixing and improving to the way we think things should be, because we're still looking at that as the old menu. Our idea of what peace is, our idea of what beauty is, our idea of what one should aspire to, are all based in really inherited ideas that we've ascribed great meaning and value to. And when you go to this level of tone, you essentially become available to what exists beyond those things. And the process of becoming somewhat unattached to the old ideas of what should be based on past experience becomes part of the journey that one experiences at that level.
Thank you. So I want to go to a question of attunement and things of that sort. Before I do that, from a functional, from a practical, I don't know the word for it, point of view, have the guides mentioned, and I'm curious, can we go to the guides and say, I don't know how this works anymore, Paul?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if they want to come through, they will. I've honestly, since July, done maybe 5 retreats and 4 live. I mean, I've just been nonstop, and then a whole book was delivered through it, which I'm grateful for. But I'm so kind of fatigued. So if they want to come through, they will. Yes, and they're saying yes, as we choose. So that's it. Once in a book signing years ago for the very first book, some very nice man in some bookstore in Asheville, North Carolina, said, will the guides come through and say something for us? And they came through and they said, yes, we are not the entertainment. That was it from them, They're not the floor show.
I love it. That jaw floor. From a mechanical point of view, is there, have the guides said that there's a tipping point, a point at which a certain number of humanity is in accord or things change?
I don't hear that. I don't hear the numerical stuff. I think that stuff is kind of sexy and kind of fun. When it was the 144,000, everybody says, I'm one of those, it's a small number, really, if you think about it. My understanding is that the field is being seeded at this time to allow for this shift. And those people who are aligning at a higher level are actually creating a way for others to do the same. And this all really happens through co-resonance. So other people may get information that is numerical or about equations. That's not how I hear it. I'll see if they want to take this one or not. Yes, we would like to. They're saying, yes, we would like to. You look for an average. You look for an average. More people wish for this or that. More people wish for this or that. And you understand that change may be applicable when the collective has agreed to something new. Indeed, the collective must agree to something new in order for the new to be born. What you are experiencing now is the enormous resistance to the change that is occurring. And the latitude that you are experiencing yourself in, the vibrational accord, continues to show you what is asking to be seen anew. Until you become reliant on a new potential, a new possibility of what can be, you will find yourself fighting amongst yourselves. You will find yourselves trying to fix what has been broken through fear with the fear that you would utilize to fix it. Once you begin to understand that the divine self, or the aspect of you that is already in realization, holds the key for the resurrection of humanity in a higher scale of intonation or tonal accord, once you begin to align at that level, what begins to occur is enormous. The shift is actually in process, but when you pull something up from its roots, you will disturb the earth that surrounds it. When the roots are very deep, the roots of pain, the roots of war, the roots of hatred and greed, you will see an enormous displacement of the earth surrounding the root as it is pulled. While this is perceived to be destruction, you must see the creation that you have been in accord to. If you are not willing to see how you are all indeed in party to what the world is today, inclusive of your own prejudice and your own greed and your own fear of love or worth, you will not be able to witness the value that you actually hold as party to this experience. The experience that humanity is undergoing is higher than you know and may not resemble what you would wish. What you would wish still are the ideas of rainbows and sparrows, and you don't understand that God, or God as we say God is, must be present in all manifestation. What has been excluded from the divine, what you have put in shadow individually and collectively, is being asked to reclaimed. You are not so much putting the fire out, you are reclaiming the fire in God. You are grateful for fire when it does what you want. You are terrified of fire when it does not. To realize that what you have created must be re-seen or re-known in the higher octave, which is the action of the species at this time, will claim you in an agreement to what can be so. What can be so, what will be so, and what is so, which is indeed the process of manifestation. Nothing is made manifest until it is first claimed as potential. It can be so. Humanity may know itself in a higher way. If that potential is present, humanity begins to address it. If some of you, underline some, not all, are beginning to hold the tone that we call the upper room in the energetic field, it operates at a level of, for lack of a better word, contagion or vibrational accord. Imagine the one who is the light walking into the darkest room. That light sheds light on what is held in darkness, what has been tethered in darkness, the belief in the need for the darkness, and mayhem ensues. Because nobody really wants to be reminded of their own agreement to their own shadow selves. No one really wants to be party to the fact that they have chosen to deny the divine in themselves or the ones around them. To be the light at this time is to reclaim the action of the divine in and of all things. The claim we instruct in now, and it is a very simple one, it is a very high truth, will indeed support humanity in re-knowing itself beyond what your expectations of this might even be. I am in God, I am of God, I am with God. We will explain this for you if you wish, or we will let it rest here for now, period.
Please explain it. Thank you very, very much.
So let's see, let me go back in. We would like to explain it if we may. To understand that you are in God. To understand that you are in God is to comprehend the divine, which you may call God or anything you prefer, as a sea of vibration that you must be existing in. I am in this sea because all things must be of God, even if they are operating at a low level of vibrational accord. And that would include what you would claim as war or fear. To realize the inherent divine in all manifestation actually reclaims all manifestation to begin to operate in its higher or true nature. I am in God as the ocean. I am of God, underline the word of, simply means that the body and the energetic systems that the body is included in must also be made of the same stuff and not separate. I am in God, the environment that you are held in. I am of God, the form you have taken itself, not separate from source. And I am with God. I am in relation to this thing at all times because I cannot not be. You understand the idea of personal connection with Source as you wish to understand it. Well, I felt the presence of God today because I got my way. To understand that you cannot be outside of the divine, although you may experience yourself in separation, would be an enormous help for many of you because you in some ways create an idolatry around your spiritual natures which dismisses the feelings that you have, which you would suggest are not in accord with spirituality. When all things are of Source or can be reknown in Source, all things may be transformed to begin to operate, underline begin, at a higher level of tone. Now, tone is vibrational accord. The room that you sit in and everything in it that you see, you are indeed in accord to, whether you chose the paint color on the wall or the curtains or not. The simple fact is you are in accord, vibrational accord with your environment at whatever level of alignment that you hold. Lifting to the upper room, which is again of the attunements that we instruct in, I am in the upper room, I have come, I have come, I have come, shifts the energy field so that you may actually hold presence there, presence and being. And it is from this level of tone, I am in the upper room, I have come, I have come, I have come, that the following invocation or attunement is applicable. Behold, I make all things new. An invocation of the divine self, not the personality self, seeking to fix things as he decides they should be based on his own personal idea of what is holy or what is not. Behold, I make all things new is the reclamation of the physical plane from the upper room, which is where the physical plane is transformed by lifting it to a level of resonance where what has been held in fear is actually released, lost, or reclaimed, recreated in higher intonation. Now, the simple claim, behold, I make all things new, is followed by the claim, it will be so, which is the manifestation of the prior claim and the outcome of that claim, God is, God is, God is, which is beginning to claim the fullness of the presence of the divine in all things. The outcome of all of the attunements we have offered thus far and the ones preceding them is the following claim. I am in God, I am of God, I am with God. That simple decree, that simple attunement, that simple claim of truth, what is true is always true, holds all of the prior attunements within it. And realization, which comes at the cost of the old, what you think should be, who you thought you were, what you thought the rules were for how reality must unfold, must be altered at this level of strata or tone. Reclamation, the divine self, knowing itself in expression as in and with you, through you if you wish, must be understood as the divine expressing through the individual and consequently the collective in simultaneity, because the God within you is actually the same God that is present in the one that you say you can't stand, or those people over there who don't do what you want them to do. To realize the unity that is present at this level, I am in God, I am of God, I am with God, extending to the collective, we are in God, we are of God, we are with God, reclaims the manifest plane at this level of intonation, period.
Thank you. And certainly thank you to the guides. From a functional point of view, I want to dive into some pieces. From a functional point of view, these attunements, do people say them once? Do they repeat them over and over?
I'll say this first, and then they'll probably shut me up and correct me. Because my old assistant on the road, would hear this in every event, and he'd say, he raised his hands once and said, how long do we have to say these things for? And the guide said, until you know them to be true. Now, I don't walk into a room and say, hi, I'm Paul, I'm bald. I accept that. That's part of how I show up in the world at this point in my life. It wasn't always true, but it's been true for some time now. And they talk about the attunements, the very first attunements. The first one was to the energy of the word. And then the claims that followed that. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free, I am free, I am free, which they say really was the precursor to the entry to the upper room. The claim I am free, I am free, I am free is actually an unbinding from the agreements made to limitation. It's the fake ceiling that we keep hitting ourselves up against, that there's everything else exists sort of beyond that. And I'm using the idea of higher as metaphor. So what was I saying? I am free, I am free, I'm free. Oh yeah, it claims the upper room as potential. So once in the upper room, the guides say there's a whole other octave of vibration that's available to experience. We've actually been very limited in what we can experience because our understanding of even our senses has been diminished, what we believe we're capable of and what is possible. And so the last series of books that they've written have all been written from that level of vibration. Everything prior to that was really, I think, in readiness for that. So realization, they say, comes at the cost of the old. And what they say, and this is back to your question, what is true is always true. The divine self, or the God within you, knows who and what it is. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. That's not Paul seeking to make himself special or deify his personality. It's not that at all. But it's the God within announcing its presence in, as, of, and with. And the realization of that is where they brought us to in their teachings. That makes sense?
Yes, thank you. So playing with that earlier, you mentioned we don't, something about crumbling walls, and we don't try to repair the walls at the level we're at. We rise above even the need for the walls. One of the things that was talked about in divine union is the letting go of borders, or the need for borders and countries as we see them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have talked about. I think they've talked about these are basically ideas. A border is an idea. A township is an idea. A marriage is an idea. All of these things are ideas that we've codified and gone into an accord or agreement to what they mean and how they should be seen. And so I don't believe that they're necessarily say, get rid of the names of your countries. I don't really feel that, but I do get that they're asking us to rise in awareness beyond the separation that we have demanded. And the demand for separation is generally based in a kind of fear. And they talk about this as coming from the time when you were afraid your neighbor was going to come and steal the vegetables out of your garden. You build a wall and a higher wall, and then you get a gun and you shoot the ones that want to trespass. And then you name your property and they name their property, and suddenly you have two countries.
Thank you. So if we went to the guides or through you is perfect. I'm curious how we let go of that fear, or more specifically, I'm going to call it wipe the lens of separation clear?
Let me go to them. Would like to address it differently. Would like to address this differently than he would wish. The lens of separation. The lens of separation is the belief and the accord to it. The lens is actually what you project onto a thing. If you all stopped agreeing to the idea of border, you would actually have no borders. If you all agreed to release the idea that one human being was worth more than the one beside her, you would actually move to a level of agreement to equality at a much higher level than you have ever done so as species. When you begin to stop investing in separation as mandate, you can have the experience that exists beyond it. This does not mean you don't put on your own shoes in the morning and you leave your neighbor's shoes to your neighbor. They fit the neighbor's feet, they do not fit yours. It does not mean that you don't decide to dine at your own table or perhaps invite somebody to dine with you or go to their table. You may have what you call your table, but you begin to understand that the residual affect of this understanding is a release of the need for separation born in fear. The action of fear is to claim more fear. Every choice a human being makes in fear will claim him, her, it in more of the same. Every time a country makes a choice in fear, the country accrues the karma that the fear mandates. And the action of fear, claiming more fear, will claim itself in ways you will not wish to watch, see, or experience. To realize that these things are potentials that can be mandated and met at a higher level of accord without the fear supporting the old claims would be useful. You must understand that you have had 20 locks on your door and you finally realize you are safe without them. The locks themselves will rust and fall away, and the door itself may fall away to allow entry and exit as is required. Your understanding of property is based in fear of being overtaken. Your idea of what one should have or should not have is based in hierarchical agreement that is born through a lens of separation. If you are wishing to release the lens of separation, you shift in vibration to the upper room through the tools that we have offered and begin to allow for the release to occur. You cannot rip the lenses from your eyes, but you can move to a level of vibrational accord or union, if you wish, where the lenses are not present. Imagine you have lenses in your spectacles that are outdated. Imagine your vision has corrected beyond what you imagined. The lenses themselves will begin to distort, and you will find yourself uncomfortable with the lens. You'll begin to see other, see clearly, see what exists as it truly is, not as you have decided it should be seen as. Most everything you do is seeking to perpetuate an idea of normalcy in whatever way normal has been known. You have actually moved beyond that stage. You're in an enormous shift where humanity itself is struggling to reach a new shore. The new shore is another level of vibrational accord where other things, other potentials exist. We do not suggest you need destroy yourselves to get there. In fact, we say that will not be the case. But the awakening that must occur, underline the word must, happens at the level of human awareness. And perhaps the lenses that you speak of can be seen as ways that awareness presents. But once you understand that your reliance upon the old, predicated on old systems born in fear, rule of others, overriding free will of many, economic division, once you understand that these old creations are failing, you may well begin to agree to what else may be known in other ways. Underline other. We will not name these structures. They have not yet been named, nor will we tell you what they should look like. This must be understood by you all experientially. There is no human being born who could describe what love is who has not known love. It is an abstract idea. There is no human being who could describe true peace who has not known such a thing. To lift to the level of tone where these things are present allows you to share them and to be party to their creations, period.
Thank you, and thank you to the guides. So it's fascinating to me. There is a really twisted statement that I like because to me it describes a lot of spirituality. And this goes to my old sense of humor. I don't think I've used the sense of humor in 10 or 20 years. But the statement is the beatings will continue until morale improves. The old systems will keep us in a state of fear until we recognize and realize something different. We realize, okay, things are crumbling. This doesn't mean that we celebrate the suffering of our neighbors or the suffering of anyone. And at the same time, we go, huzzah, something amazing is possible out of this.
Yes, I would agree with that. And that's very much in alignment with what they teach.
So as we're looking at this shift or this awakening, how do we stay in that state and live in vibrational accord with that upper room as, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God?
Well, I mean, they just did this. The whole book that they just delivered was about this, all of it. I mean, they're calling that the upper room, becoming the divine self. That's the title that they've given the next one, not the one that's coming out in January. And the claim or the attunement that they offer, I am in God, I am of God, I am with God, they say actually will support human beings in this, all of us in this, as we align to it. And that what you're doing really is you're not looking outside the self for what you're going to hold on to for dear life. They've used the metaphor of being on a ship that is rocking in a strange sea, and you're holding steady in the center of the boat, and you're trusting that the boat is moving as it needs to move. And that's my words, not their words. I would not be able to quote this well. I don't remember how they said it. So the remembrance, I suspect, that there is an aspect of you or everyone that is already there at that level of upper room. You're not making it up. The God within you expresses at that level of vibration. So you move to that level. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free. I am free. I am in the upper room. Now, these aren't magic words. This isn't Aladdin's lamp. They're simply activations to support the individual's realization of the inherent divine within them. And then that becomes the ballast. That becomes what centers you. That becomes what claims you. And if you're like me, you're going to be invited to forget it every minute. What I'm beginning to experience, and it's very interesting to me in the last 6 months, is a kind of strange sense of being held in this energy that I haven't experienced before. And when the guides work with this in groups, and they've done a whole lot of them lately where they brought through this attunement, it actually shifts the energy in the entire environment. Now, prior attunements, I am word through the ones I see before me, I know who you are in truth. The energy body is the body itself is being used as lantern, but you're still feeling it as if it's an emanation from your own system. This whole other thing is a whole other thing. I am in God, I am of God, I am with God. It's the reclamation of the divine in presence in being, in manifestation. And so I found within this a kind of peace that I'm very surprised about. It's beyond what I've experienced thus far. But I'm also getting, because it doesn't necessarily stop, to look at what comes up that's asking to be released. I don't feel that I've not ascended. I'm not somebody, you call me a spiritual teacher. I'm really not. I'm an old college teacher from New York who developed in this strange way.
I forgive me. I dispute that because you are living it and sharing by your breath.
But what I'm not doing is pretending, and what I'm not doing is suggesting that I have awakened in some way. I am in a process still, as others are. I had an old therapist 100 years ago, Hurricane Harriet, when I went into recovery. She was great. She was an old leggy blonde, like an ex-rock cat. She smoked a long cigarette. And she said, get spiritual, get spiritual. The ones who make it get spiritual. So I did. And she also said, and those people that run around saying they got the higher power, don't listen to
Run.
it. The ones that really have it generally don't need to talk about it. It's just there. It's just part of how they're living their lives. And in some ways, that's the best way to do it. So I can share what I hear from the guides or try to interpret it. And the only reason I do that is because I get asked to a lot. And although they're much better at spreading their message or sharing their words than I am, and now that I'm not whispering and repeating it all, it's easier for people to hear it. I'm understanding that. I'm not used to it yet, but this wasn't about my convenience. So I don't know what your question was. As I said, I'm forgetting everything now that I'm channeling directly. It's like it's shifted my whole brain chemistry.
It's perfect, and thank you. So I'm curious what these two words mean to you and what they mean to the guides: peace and trust.
Trust is knowing that the absolute is present regardless of outcome. Peace is understanding that there is nothing to truly fear. Even the fear of the body that you may hold of being harmed can be understood as a fear of what occurs after this thing. The divine self, or the true self, knows no fear. It has actually never been afraid. It is not in accord or in alignment with that level of vibrational experience. So to understand that there is a part of you that knows itself beyond fear, has only known itself beyond fear, and is operating in a true state of innocence, which means availability to what can be so in source, would support you in releasing the distortion that precludes peace. Generally, the fear that you hold, that he holds, that most hold, is selfish. Now, at this time, some of you are having a fear for the country you live in or the countries that are warring. And we understand that this fear may motivate you to high action. And high action need not be born in an activation of more fear, but to reclaim what is actually operating through fear in the upper room. And this is an instruction we offer in the texts, to re-see the divine in what has been hidden, what has been lost, what has been shielded from the light. To reclaim anything in God is to bless it. A blessing is not a permission to ignore. I bless it so I don't have to think about it. A blessing is practicing the presence of the divine where it has been denied, distorted, or refuted, period. You're saying period.
Thank you. I teach the concept of hugging, as in somebody asked me, Michael, how do you send love to someone that you cannot hold in light? And we can get certainly into the what you damns you back. And I say, bear hug.
Yeah, I'm challenged by this stuff. I don't find it necessarily easy or comfortable. I really don't. I have to say at this point, it's hard. I got into this stuff not because I wanted to be a channel. I didn't even really believe in channeling, and I've been known to say that I'm still cautious of some of what is called channeling. I think inspiration is of God and glorious, and I perceive channeling to be something fairly specific, which involves retelling or serving as conduit in language or in an exact way. It doesn't matter what the form is it takes, I suppose. So, my experience with all of this stuff is just what it is. So anyway, I'm still forgetting what I was saying. You have to forgive me. When I channel now, it's really odd. I initially panicked, but it's like my brain got dropped in a vat of formaldehyde. It didn't happen when I whispered and repeated at all.
It's I can't believe I'm going to say it this way, dropping this facade of the interviewer here for a moment. I teach every Monday night with the YouTube Live. I teach every Wednesday night with my School of Mystics, and I channel beforehand, and then I'm corrected. I go and review, but then I'm corrected as I share that with people if anything needs correction during my teaching. I am being challenged, and I have not stepped up to the plate the way you have, although I'm going to start doing live talks, to drop the channeling beforehand. And you've been very brave to do that.
Well, because I don't get it. I'm not trained. I'm not a trained channel. I didn't know that I could do it until I was doing it, and then I was fascinated by it, but confused by it. I was going to say this before, and it's what I suspect I forgot, which is, the guides have now delivered 14 entire manuscripts through me that don't require editing. I mean, the manuscripts are unedited. There's one word in the last book. I said erection, and the real word was election, and I was corrected on that one by the guy. The translator, did they mean erection? I said, actually, it's election.
That's a joke in the book, in the movie Walter Mitty as well.
Is it really?
It is an actual Ben Stiller joke where there's a gentleman in Iceland who's trying to explain, and he doesn't speak English well, that there's a volcano about to erupt, and so he says action, and Ben Stiller's
how it was when it was with me.
Eruption.
Got corrected. So I've got all these books that don't require editing that are strangely or enormously consistent. Somebody told me recently that there was some guy who put all of the guides' books into like AI, ChatGPT, and asked for what the contradictions were, and there were none in all those books. And I used to say, I don't think they contradict themselves. It seems that they don't from the ones who've researched it. So I have to assume at this point that they know what they're talking about, even though it may not be convenient to me and how I live my life. And, I understand that there are people that are working with stuff that are being helped, and that makes me feel happy. I certainly, I'm uncomfortable. I have my name on the cover of all of these books that I didn't really write. I was a collaborator, I'm present. But I actually maintain a little bit of the distance between the me and the them, which I feel that I need to do. I'm still a student of this work. I have not arrived.
That makes two of us in this room. How can we, Paul, and we can certainly go to the guides as well, how can we bless everyone and everything?
I'm going to go to them. The understanding that it's already present and needs to be invoked, simply articulated as presence and being would be helpful right now. You can't decide where God is where God is. It is already there, but you can see where God has been denied, or the presence of the divine seems to be other. Now, when you realize that things held in darkness may be gestating for a reason, a bear goes into a dark cave to hibernate for a reason, you must understand that your idea of dragging things into the light that you think must be seen as they truly are can be an act of violence. The light itself is not violence, but may be surprising and may be unasked for. To bless everyone is to simply acknowledge the presence of the divine upon all, because it is already there, but has been denied, refuted, ignored, or decided against. To realize that the light in every human heart is still present, even if diminished, hidden, held in abeyance by some other thing, does not discount that the light is there. To bless another is to know who they are, what they are, and how they serve at the level of tone that we instruct in, not to decide who they should be based on your decisions of who others should be and behave as, but who they can only be in truth, period.
Thank you. Going along those lines, bringing it more personal, I believe they called the body holy. How do we heal it from illness? I'm going to put heal in quotes because I know they have a lot to say about that word. Heal it from injury or illness at this new or higher place.
They actually got into this in the new book, and I don't remember the teaching, but I was really uncomfortable with the teaching. So much so that I actually had two other people who do this kind of work say, what do you think? And then, yeah, this is right. This is what I get to. So I'll see if they want to take this present now. The challenge with talking about some of this stuff is, I'm the first guy to say that if I break my leg, take me to the doctor and get the bones set correctly. We can all pray on it
Me
too.
too. I've got
I,
titanium legs,
yeah,
literally.
so I want to, I'm not refuting modern medicine. I do understand that there are other ways that things can be attended to. I'll see what they want to say. I am in God holds the body. I am in God holds the body. I am in God. I am in God. I am of God holds the body as well. Holds the body as well. The presence of the divine in the body. The presence of the divine in the body, in the cartilage, in the cells, in the growth itself, in the growth itself that may be malignant, that may be malignant. To realize the presence of the divine at this level of tone upon the distortions or the things that have been claimed through fear would understandably shift the things, or at least the relationship to the things. There are times in a life where an illness provides a lesson or an opportunity for growth. Death is actually opportunity for growth to yet another way of expressing. So you are not trying to evacuate the body by dying, but you are trying to understand that the body itself in its holiness is not meant to be present at all stages of evolution. To understand that who you were as an infant is still who you are as an older human being would be helpful, and to understand that you will still be present beyond the body would be helpful. I am in God, which simply means I am in the field, which is God. I am of God, which announces the field as present in body, as body, and with body would be useful. To begin to comprehend the act of healing as simply an act of restoration to what is always true would be useful as well, not to try to attack something with the light. Things, when attacked, will seek to revolt. When you realize the presence of the divine where the challenge is, the challenge can indeed move, release, or be claimed in another form, period.
Thank you. And thank you to the guides. Going along those same lines, many are feeling, many, I have been there, certainly, overwhelmed at this point. Is this a necessary part of the process? Do we claim this as part of the divine? What is this?
This meaning the world right now?
The overwhelm, the sense of overwhelm that so many are feeling.
Let me see what they want to take this. I have my own issues with this. The sense of overwhelm you're experiencing is having to witness your own creations and your own obligation as participatory to them, which simply means an alignment to what you see. This becomes opportunity when you realize that anything that has been created in form can indeed be recreated in a higher way. When anything is reduced to idea, war an idea, border an idea, villain an idea, shame an idea. When you understand that when something is brought back to the level of energy that was the initial idea, it can be reclaimed and altered in its form. Form itself is the residual affect of thought. Manifestation actually comes after thought. Thought indeed is creative. When you return something to its basis, which is thought and intent, and the intent is shifted, the thought itself can be made other. Other may be beyond what you would have it be, or beyond what you have known it as, or even possible. But to realize something as other gives it the opportunity to be reknown. Overwhelm in this case is simply the extent to the level you are now having to experience the changes that you as species have incurred through your obligation to the historical data that has predicated these creations. Everything you are seeing now in some ways is the product of what has been agreed to prior. Like it or not, and agreed to does not mean approved of, it means in accord with. I'm not in agreement to the terrible weather, but I can't deny the terrible weather, which means I am in alignment to the weather, like it or not, period.
Thank you. For those who've had, I guess it's a two-part. It appears that more people are having spiritual awakenings, what I call WTF moments lately, part A, and I'm wondering if that's part of the design of what's going on. And the second is, what do we do after we've had that, oh my God, moment?
I don't know, I'd have to ask. I mean, for me, my life kind of fell apart after it happened with me. I didn't know what was important. I didn't know, I was raised sort of an atheist. So for me to have this experience was deeply challenging, and it was a deep hunger that was being met at that time through God, which is how I got into these things that I'm in today. So let me just see, how does one attend to a spiritual awakening? I'm going to go in and ask different things. It depends on the human being, how they've developed their capacity and their capacity for change. Mostly it needs to be controlled. Mostly it needs to be gentle. You can imagine brushing the dust off something. You can imagine brushing the dust off something very gently with a feather, exposing what lays beneath it, bringing the light to it, encountering the self, and encountering the self with some delicacy, as one is removing the veils that have limited perception or accord. To understand that this process is something that the soul is in agreement to and in support of would be useful. The personality is not what dictates an awakening. The personality actually might invest in the awakening as a way to perceive itself as special or anointed, but indeed the soul comprehends the requirements of any awakening. Awakenings come to the way the human being can attend to them. Some become awakened through an idea that has been other than they have ever known, or an experience that cannot be explained through the senses, as they have been indoctrinated to believe the senses can conduct themselves. Regardless, it is a shift or a being moved from one station of vibration to another. To attend to the potentials that are available in the new station is process. Again, understand that if someone has been sleeping in a pitch black room and you flood him or her with light, they will seek more refuge in the darkness. To lead the one who has been resting in darkness to the light in a process is how we attend to our students and their evolution. Those who wish to awaken fully without holding the legacy of manifestation in this way have a difficult time. Those who in prior incarnation have known themselves in these ways have an easier time because there is a familiarity or a sense of reclamation. Understand that every soul is in process and learning lessons it has come to learn through this idea of incarnation. When one awakens softly, one may sing a soft song. When one awakens loudly, one may awaken screaming at the light that seeks to vanquish the old. Each is applicable in different ways at different times, depending on the requirements of the individual and the soul itself, period.
Thank you. I guess just a few last questions. First off, where can people go to find your work, Paul, and to find out more?
Oh, my website is my name. It's paulselig.com. So everything's up there. I do, live streams pretty much every Wednesday, although you're doing one Wednesday too. So if you're Michael's student, stay with Michael. I do these intensives once a month, Thursday through Monday. And I travel again a fair amount, and the guides are doing live workshops, and the live workshops are kind of great because the energy is highly experiential, and people can have their own experience of this, and it stops perhaps seeming so maddening once you understand that it's not anything other than a way of being in an experience of source energy. And the normal booksellers. There's lots of books out. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, online, offline, all those places have the books. Okay.
I think after 10 years, we just passed our 10-year anniversary, well over 2,000 shows, not including my live events. You're still the only teacher. I know you're still the only Paul, whatever, with lack of a word, that I've actually been to in person.
Oh, yeah.
And it was amazing.
Oh, well, come back.
I
It's always
will.
different. Every time is different because I don't know what they're going to talk about. You
Yeah.
just show up and, here they go again.
Yeah. So, and thank you for that invite. I will make this happen. 3 last questions that I have. First off, the word manifestation has come up many times from both yourself and from the guides. What is the guides? You don't have to go to the guides. We can't, but what is their definition of what manifestation really is?
Form. Form, the action of manifestation, I suspect, is calling things into form. Manifestation is form. The body is manifestation.
When they're
This, yeah, go ahead.
when they're talking about manifestation, they say though that is not about a car, it is
Yeah.
not about a home.
It's the new age thinking that the universe is a catalog that should be ordered from, and that's very popular. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. The challenge is that we tend to look to the things we think we're supposed to have based in the old construct of what one should aspire to, and the guides used to say, there's nothing wrong with the house on the hill. Somebody gets to live there, but why do you want it? And if you want the house so that you can be the envy of your neighbors, you're creating in fear. You understand? That's the difference.
Thank you. Last two questions. This one, last question for the guides, if they feel if they'd like to come through for this. What is the single most important thing for humanity to understand right now?
That you have the right to be who you are, and that you may know yourself beyond the old idea of what you thought you were. To realize who you are means a passage, recognition of recognition, beyond deceit, beyond self-glory, beyond what you think you should be, beyond even what you think you should be. Know who you are, know who you are, know you have a right to be, and know you have a right to be as you are in truth,
Thank you. Thank you to the guides. And the last question for you is, would you have a final message? And this can be, I'd also love to know how have you navigated it? A final message for those feeling lost in this transition.
I'll go to them. Understand that this is a part of something, not the end of something, not the end of something. This is transition, not finality, not finality. It's a change of speed. It's a change of speed of the broadcast in the broadcast. And what gets distorted can be reknown in a clear way when the distortion passes, period.
Thank you. Then I've got to ask, what makes you hopeful, Paul?
What makes me hopeful? I always say I want my dogs to live forever. I mean,
Of
I never
course.
do. That's what I always want, and what I want for myself? I'm happy. I used to be aspiring spiritually a lot, and I'm not right now. I'm grateful for what I do have. I'm grateful for the feral cats that live at the base of my driveway that I get to feed every day. I'm grateful for
This is one of the Maui rescued feral cats.
look at that. It's a beauty.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
21 years of age. And of course, I
that's
want him to live forever. He's a
yep.
Maui feral kid. He's got the cropped ear and everything.
I see. I see.
So sorry, please forgive me.
That's it. That's it. I'm just happy for some peace right now. That's all.
Sorry for those who are going, why did you interrupt, Michael?
No, it's great. I'm happy to see a cat any day.
So, oh, thank you so much, Paul. This has been absolutely beautiful. It is really fun to watch your journey because even I know you, and when you even say a curmudgeon-y New Yorker, and I look at the arc of we've known each other almost 10 years now, I don't see that anymore.
Well, that's nice to hear. I was in a workshop in North Carolina and somebody said, I heard you were a curmudgeon like Fran Lebowitz. And I went, oh my God, that's actually kind of a compliment, I suppose. But, anyway, it's fine. I'm not complaining about it.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, start to live from that upper room and watch everything else be realized or reknown at a higher level, and above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! Woo. How does it get any better than this? How does it get any better than this? What a special, beautiful, profound, and the energy of this interview. It's something I play with in the School of Mystics. It's something that Paul plays with. When we are speaking at this level, do I dare even say it at this level? When we are speaking at the level of the upper room, it changes everything, and it changes you, and you never fully experience the world the same way again. You see the world anew. So on that level, if you want to come join me for channeled teachings, attunements, transmissions, at that higher level, come join me with a School of Mystics 4 Wednesdays each and every month. Live and recorded. How does it get any better than this? The link is down below. If you simply want an attunement or a transmission, meaning bring your energy up each and every day, coming out of channel teachings, come on over to dailywoohoo.com. It's free, dailywoohoo.com, for a daily energy transmission. If you want to learn how to channel, hear from your guides, your angels, your loved ones on the other side, even your pets on the other side, come on over to automaticwriting.com. That's automaticwriting.com. Here's a link to the next amazing show. I love you so, so much. What a profound interview. I'd watch it again and again and again. Here's a link to that next amazing interview, and keep on shining bright. Woohoo! How does it get any better than this? How does it get any better than this? Love. I love you. You are love. You came from love. You couldn't be anything other than love, no matter how much you try.